following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
All happening tonight at Bound for Glory in Phoenix, Arizona. Joined here by David Hero, soon to be joined by Matthew. Pay-per-view where TNA delivered a lot of noteworthy moments, including several championships changing hands, and David, the most important of those being what happened in the main event, the final matchup of the evening, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, changing hands. Austin Aries, A-double, the greatest man that ever lived, no longer able to prove that with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff Hardy, with the Swanton Bomb, defeats Aries and is the new TNA champion. What a hell of a matchup these two had in an atmosphere that has been unrivaled in the entire history of TNA wrestling.
These two guys went toe-to-toe, and they fought, and they beat each other up. I mean, the entire pay-per-view was fantastic, but these two guys ended the show, maybe not the way the fans in attendance wanted to see it end up, but oh my God. I mean, when was the last time you saw Jeff Hardy so engaged in a match where he worked that hard?
It's been a very long time, whipping out several new moves as well in that matchup. A match where I talked about the atmosphere, David Hero. The fans in Phoenix, a near sellout crowd, if not a sellout, in Phoenix at the Grand Canyon University Arena. They were behind both Aries and Hardy. It had somewhat of a feel to it, similar to that of the whole John Cena CM Punk matchup back at Money in the Bank 2011. While not on the same scale, it is the only thing that's really gotten close, and TNA did it tonight. What that showed me was that they gave the fans watching and the fans in the arena the main event matchup that they wanted, and characters, performers, athletes, wrestlers that they were invested in, and that's what led to that reaction by the crowd tonight. But you say it may not have been what they wanted. They popped huge for Jeff Hardy winning that championship.
Well, you know what, and they did. But throughout the match, Austin Aries seemed to be the louder crowd favorite during the match. But at the end of the day, I mean, the fans loved Jeff Hardy, and they proved it. They may not have been that vocal throughout, but yeah, when that final 3 count was made and the bell rang, Jeff Hardy was back to being the babyface cheer, not getting booed as a babyface.
Seemed, though, very clear that the fans wanted Aries. I mean, the cheers were overwhelmingly for Aries, the chants overwhelmingly for Aries during the contest. But as we just said, after the contest, the fans seemed to be happy. And it seemed like going into this was Jeff Hardy's night. It was the journey of Jeff Hardy from his unfortunate incident at Victory Road a couple of years back, his recovery, his return. And in a recent interview, Jeff Hardy said, a year ago, he was sitting in jail before Bound for Glory, serving out that 10-day sentence. This year, he walks out the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion match.
Yeah,
and kudos to both men.
Give Jeff, we're talking about Jeff Hardy because he's the new champion, but hey, if Austin Aries was the other guy in that match, and he made it just as tremendous and as amazing, both guys, I mean, I knew it was going to be a good match. I knew it could be great. But after watching everything else throughout the night, I'm like, boy, how are these guys going to get the crowd back into it? Because it was such an emotional evening with such good wrestling throughout. And they did. They re-supercharged that crowd with that match tonight.
Brand new World Heavyweight Champion in TNA Wrestling. His name is Jeff Hardy. He did it at Bound for Glory, defeating Austin Aries in a tremendous wrestling matchup. The conversation is going on all throughout this broadcast here in the chat room on Blog Talk Radio. I want to welcome all of you who are actively chatting about TNA Bound for Glory tonight. Lots of discussion about the matchup, pay-per-view overall, and the reviews have been pretty firm and solid so far for the pay-per-view. We are looking for your feedback, though, ladies and gentlemen, on our Twitter account, at PWR Show on Twitter. Again, that's at PWR Show on Twitter. We just sent out 2 tweets. One, retweet if you feel that this show deserves a passing grade, and one asking you to retweet if you feel this show deserves a failing grade. And I got to imagine, David Hero, we might already know the outcome of that poll, but I hope it's not tainted by those who didn't watch and will simply judge it as a fail because it was TNA Impact Wrestling, which that pocket exists out there.
You know what? For anyone that has criticized TNA Impact Wrestling over their 10 years of being in existence, and I've said this before, this was a pay-per-view that if you would have watched and you watched with an open mind, you would have liked it. You would have enjoyed it, and you'd be like, wow, you know what? This is a pretty good product.
We actually just getting a couple of your tweets in now. Again, that's at PWR Show on Twitter. One coming in from at Sal Perez Jr. saying, Bound for Glory is proof TNA can put on a 5-star pay-per-view. It is indeed their WrestleMania. 10 out of 10 is the score with a definite pass. At WrestleCage85, overall it was a solid pay-per-view show for Impact Wrestling. Still digesting and I'll edit this because we haven't revealed it yet, the reveal, though. Not sure how I feel yet about the reveal of who is behind Aces and Eights. So again, send us your tweets. We'll read some of them here on air. And that was probably the next big story of the night, David Hero, which was the reveal of Aces and Eights as Aces and Eights defeated Sting and Bully Ray. I don't think anyone saw this one coming, David Hero. Everyone said they knew, they heard it was going to be Eric Bischoff. It was going to be Eric Bischoff. Well, Eric Bischoff would be nowhere near this whole thing as it evolved, if you will. And the man who Hogan and Sting and Bully Ray was none other than a man who we were led to believe was no longer with TNA Impact Wrestling and did not sign a new contract, relinquished a championship as a result of it. Devon. Yep, Devon, the leader, it seems, of Aces and Eights, saying at one point, it was me all along. It was always me, rather. Devon, the reveal, the chant broke out afterwards saying, this is awkward. It was awkward, but not in a bad way, but not even in a good way, but in an intriguing way. And quite frankly, that's what they had to do. Not pick Devon, I'm saying they had to leave some intrigue behind this. And I don't know if the payoff is there for all of this Aces and Eights stuff we've seen, but you do have a lot of questions with Devon being revealed as the face of Aces and Eights.
You know, I don't know if he is the complete face. I still think there's more pieces to be put together. But, you know, once again, Hogan tweeted about Devon quite a bit, saying he wishes he could have re-signed him. He's a big piece, loves the guy. I mean, for a good 2.5 weeks, he took up a lot of Hulk Hogan's Twitter timeline, which, you know, kind of laid groundwork for all this. You know, yeah. I mean, yeah, Devon was gone, but he was still there. Not too sure how much I care for it, and I don't know. There has to be more involvement from other people. I still believe Bischoff is going to be involved somehow, because if it's Devon and the other guys that we saw tonight, this thing is going to fizzle quick. I'm pretty sure that more people are going to be involved.
David Hero, we watched the Bound for Glory broadcast in the PWR offices, studios here, and we watched it without other fans around us. Impact Wrestling, Matthew Thomas was in a theater watching Bound for Glory on the theater experience. And Matthew's joining us now. Welcome, Matthew, to the broadcast.
Thank you. Yeah,
and Matthew, we talked about the new world champion in TNA Impact Wrestling. We talked about Devon being revealed as a member, or if not the leader, of Aces and Eights. First, what was the experience like in the theater where you watched Bound for Glory and the reaction of those who were there to Jeff Hardy becoming the new world champion?
It was a fairly mixed crowd. I would say about half and half Hardy, half and half Aries. Not a very vocal crowd tonight. It differs a little bit from, say, watching it at a bar or in a WWE blast area or something. The whole theater experience, I found, it really doesn't lend itself to, you know, the vocalness that, say, another venue like the bars that I've been to in the past to experience pay-per-views at. It's a little bit more of a, you know, not quite as much interaction as you normally have, but it was definitely the match of the night as far as the fan enthusiasm goes in the theater.
Good point. How were the seats comfortable?
Yeah, seats very, very comfortable.
Jeff Hardy's the new world champion. Your thoughts on that? Him defeating Austin Aries here tonight at Bound for Glory.
I'm fine with it. I've been pretty high on Austin Aries for quite a while and would like to have seen him retain. But, here's the thing. We really did not get much as far as a storyline in the build-up to Aries Hardy this time around. It was more focused on the fact that Hardy won the Bound for Glory tournament, and this past go-home show before the pay-per-view, we finally got the Aries heel turn. We finally got a little bit of story between those two guys. So if you have Aries retain, I think the likelihood of getting another match or two out of it really doesn't seem as likely and to have as much interest as, say, Hardy taking the title off of Aries like he did tonight. Then you can let Aries chase the title back for a little while, try to get his belt back, and maybe get at least another pay-per-view or two out of this storyline. So I think they actually, when you look at how well constructed of a program they can have between these two guys, I think they probably made the right decision, because I think hopefully we can get some good television out of this for the next few months to come.
Maybe even leading into Turning Point next month, and I'm going to be in Orlando for Turning Point, watching that pay-per-view live. We'll see how this evolves over the course of the next few weeks. Devon, leader, or at least the face of Aces and Eights. The crowd in Phoenix, as you saw, Matthew, reacted somewhat quietly to that as they absorbed the information. What was the live event experience like in the theater where you watched Bound for Glory when Devon was revealed as the leader of Aces and Eights?
Very much of the same reaction. A lot of indifference would be the best way to sum it up. I think that everybody was just, we had talked about names earlier before the pay-per-view started. People were throwing around anybody from Batista to Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I mean, it was all kinds of conspiracy theories being thrown out there. But one name, and honestly, if you'd asked me to list 30 people tonight that I would have thought would have been involved, Devon would have not been on the list. And I said going into this that I did want to be surprised with any reveal that happened tonight, and I got to give it to them. They did surprise me in that regard. But the other thing with that is you got to look at it. Okay, do I really care about what direction this would go in now that we've got Devon revealed as one of the guys? And it kind of fell flat to me in that regard. It was a surprise, but man, it's going to be interesting to see what they expect to get out of it, because it was certainly not a name that I had any idea they would go in that direction.
Yeah, which arguably could be the reason to do it. And, the intrigue is built. I think they built some views in for Impact come this Thursday night. And, of course, you can listen to Matthew along with the man they call Meathead every Thursday night right after TNA Impact Wrestling on Spike TV, live here on Blog Talk Radio, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time each and every Thursday night. Matthew, I know you're traveling or at least trying to head home. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night, or listen to you again tomorrow night on The Meltdown.
Sounds great. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you, Matt. David Hero, more championships changed hands tonight, and a superstar returned to TNA Impact Wrestling. We're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to bring you the rest of the results from tonight's TNA Bound for Glory, where there is a brand new World Heavyweight Champion in Jeff Hardy, and Devon Dudley is the face of Aces and Eights. This is the TNA Bound for Glory post-show here live on Blog Talk Radio. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Report on YouTube. We promise we'll never rickroll you, but we might just chokeslam you. Click the subscribe button now and be part of the revolution. Missed an episode on the Pro Wrestling Report? Thanks, pal. Subscribe to the show on iTunes and take the show with you wherever you go, even in the bathroom.
And we're back here on the post show for TNA Bound for Glory, which was live tonight on pay-per-view from Phoenix, Arizona. Damian Nelson, joined by David Hero, a brand new TNA champion, and Jeff Hardy, and Devon was revealed as the face of Aces and Eights. But so much more happened on this pay-per-view tonight. We're going to break down the rest of other championships changing hands and a superstar returning from the shadows, if you will. Before we do that, though, I want to thank everybody who's discussing tonight's episode in the Blog Talk Radio chat room, and for all of you who are following us on Twitter. Again, that's at PWR Show on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. Sent out a tweet a few minutes ago asking you to retweet with your thoughts on whether or not this pay-per-view was a pass or a fail, well, the results of those retweets later on here in this broadcast. With David Hero, the opening contest saw a brand new X Division champion crowned as Rob Van Dam defeated Zema Ion in what was a good opening matchup, which also saw the fans firmly behind RVD. RVD gets this win, and it seemed as if, David Hero, you thought this should be Zema Ion's night in Phoenix.
Well, I think Zema Ion definitely needs it far more than Rob Van Dam, but boy, RVD was over like crazy. That Phoenix crowd was happy to see him, and RVD is going to definitely elevate the X Division Championship. I was impressed by how much offense he gave Zema Ion. I thought Zema Ion did a tremendous job working with RVD, considering the age difference, the experience difference, and whatnot. Zema Ion should have left the X Division champion, but you know what? Everything TNA has been doing so far has been making sense for the most part, and I'm pretty sure that going forward, Zema Ion will become a better and bigger star by defeating Rob Van Dam in a rematch.
The television championship on the line as Magnus attempted to take the title from Joe. This match, in my opinion, was better than it should have been. An excellent showing by Magnus. Maybe I haven't paid attention. Magnus was incredibly impressive in this matchup, and obviously Joe deserves credit for that as well, but not able to win and take the TV championship from Samoa Joe. What a night for Magnus, though, in that matchup, David.
You know, even Joe, Magnus and Joe, two guys that know each other, very well, former tag team champions, have worked together, have trained together, have traveled together. They know what to expect from each other. Did a fantastic job. I mean, very super impressed with that match. I thought Joe took it to a whole new level tonight. I mean, people have complained that, sometimes Joe doesn't have the fire or enthuse or in slow motion. Tonight, he definitely picked it up several notches, and him and Magnus, one hell of a match.
TV title stays around the waist of Samoa Joe. The street fight, 1 year in the making, over 1 year in the making. Bob King Mo was a special enforcer at ringside. However, at the end of the day, really played no substantial role in the matchup. Early blood shown in this match from Storm. At one point in the matchup, Bobby Roode goes after Hebner. At that point, King Mo gets involved. That resulted in Storm getting his finisher on the last call on Roode, but that did not result in a pinfall until later in the matchup, after we saw all kinds of weapons used, including chairs, kendo sticks, thumbtacks, garbage cans, the Spanish announce table, and so much more. These two fought. They had a street fight. They put the exclamation point and the period on their feud at the same time, and at the end of this matchup, it would be one man standing tall after the last call, and that man was James Storm. James Storm had to win this matchup, in my opinion. I don't think Bobby Roode is damaged at all from losing this match. What a showing from the...
No, he's not damaged at all because he did all the damage to James Storm. I think if anybody was damaged in this, it's King Mo. I think King Mo is absolutely, he was useless. He didn't do anything. He didn't bring anything. Yeah, he was introduced to the fans, but why would I care about King Mo? He just stood out there and he just, gave a little bit of a shove to Bobby Roode. I think, yeah, you had to have a clean finish to end this feud, but there could have been something after the match that reintroduces King Mo to the TNA Impact faithful.
Do you think we needed that? I mean, they didn't seem to care about King Mo when he was originally coming out in his crown and his robe. It didn't seem like it seemed already in the way.
That's why you needed it, because nobody cared about him. You have to do something. I thought for sure we would have seen something like what they did with Tyson and DX when Tyson knocked out Shawn Michaels after the match. I could have seen something like that happening somewhere, somehow, some way, and then what direction King Mo is going to go in, but they didn't do that. But I guess there was so much stuff going on tonight, it probably would have got lost in the shuffle anyhow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Including other things going on tonight, including another high-profile matchup between Al Snow and Joey Ryan. This was for a contract with TNA Wrestling. Actually, this was a decent matchup. We saw Al whip out Head, and we also saw a surprise ending to this matchup.
Head, obviously more than 87% appreciate Head. That's for damn sure.
Where'd you get the other 40% from?
Other 40%? I said 87%.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the 47% who are not self-reliant or dependent.
That's a different show, bro. Come on. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this match because people are going to say I'm biased towards Al Snow. I thought it was a good match. I thought it told a story. It showed how Al was able to one-up Joey Ryan most of the evening. It showed his experience. Not too sure why Al didn't wear his ring gear. I know he has plenty of ring gear. But then, out of nowhere, the carbon blueprint? Or the
Matt Morgan returns and does his house show run-in, if you will, attacks with a boot, the carbon footprint, yes indeed, to Al Snow. Al Snow loses the matchup. Ryan wins. Ryan gets a contract with Impact Wrestling. And that was a bit of a surprise. However, we did talk about this possibility on Be the Booker this past Friday at pwrshow.com. Matt Morgan back in TNA Wrestling. And, let's talk about, you talk about not wanting to sound biased. Let's be fair, though. Al Snow and Joey Ryan, they slowed the pace down of the night. But they were in a horrible spot coming after what was a tremendous matchup between Roode and Storm. And really, there's only one of two, being that one or the Knockouts matchup. And this was probably a good choice because Morgan, in his return, I think brought the match to a good finish and one where the crowd could get reinvested.
Well, the thing is how many of the fans really know who Joey Ryan is? And Al Snow comes out. He's not in his ring gear. He doesn't come to the ring with Head, even though Head did finally show up towards him. So it was an awkward spot for everybody involved. But, Matt Morgan, what a beast. Comes in, carbon footprint to Uncle Al's face and throws him in for the 3 count. Looks like Matt Morgan and Joey Ryan are going to be some new tag team faction or whatnot.
Next matchup was for the TNA Tag Team Championships, and we saw new tag team champions crowned in this match as well, the third of 4 titles that will have changed hands tonight at Bound for Glory. The team of Kurt Angle and AJ Styles, along with Chavo Guerrero and her of Daniels and Kazarian Kaz. This was an excellent matchup with a ton of spots, but all well-placed spots. These 6 men delivered and just really excelled in their wrestling abilities tonight. However, the tag team champions would come up short, as it would be the team of Hernandez and Chavo Guerrero winning the TNA Tag Team Championships and leaving Phoenix with the gold.
You know what? All 6 of those guys, they did. They worked hard. They did everything that could have been asked. They took risks. They did the big moves, the suplex, the power moves, everything. And you know what? When you have 6 guys in a match, it's hard to tell a story. And you know what? For the most part, they did a very good job. AJ and Angle were my favorites to leave as the champs. But you know what? Good for Chavo and Supermex. They definitely now raised their game considerably. And you know what? I'm hoping, even though that some people may have been tired of watching Kaz and Daniels, they were a great tag team. Absolutely. And I think that they can have a fantastic little program run with Chavo and Supermax.
There's no doubt about it. A great team indeed. 3 great teams in that matchup. And some people have been sort of grumbling about, whether or not Kurt Angle and AJ Styles should have been buried in a tag match. Well, they weren't buried in a tag match. They were prominently featured in a tag match, and a tag match that was one of the highlights of the night, at least from my standpoint, at Bound for Glory.
You know what? But here's what they did. By putting AJ and Angle in that match, it didn't bury them. It helped elevate Chavo and Supermax. Mm-hmm. And it helped elevate Kaz and Daniels. Where on that card could AJ and Kurt have gone? The show was overbooked to begin with. There was, 7, 8, 9 matches on there? There's no other place for them to go. They put them in a great spot. And that match, dare I say, it was a 5-star tag match.
Yeah. Next matchup was for the Knockouts Championship, Tara versus Miss Tessmacher, and Tara's been talking about her Hollywood boyfriend for a very long time, so rumors swirling around who that would be earlier today. Tara would win the Knockouts Championship for Miss Tessmacher. Again, David Hero, you've talked about things making sense in TNA. This is a story they focused on and paid attention to and gave us the end result of tonight at Bound for Glory. What didn't go over so well was when Tara, after the matchup, thanked her Hollywood boyfriend, her movie star or TV star boyfriend, whatever you want to call him, for giving her the inspiration to win this matchup. We'd find out that was a person by the name of Jesse, Mr. Spectacular, who I thought had signed with TNA a couple of years ago. I remember hearing his name years back, which was the last time I heard his name, from some Big Brother, I think the 10th season or something. He comes out and he and Tara embrace, and quite frankly, that's probably all the time we need to give to that, David Hero.
Absolutely. Next.
The overall feel of the show, it was solid. But, TNA continues to talk about this being their biggest show of the year, and there is probably no doubt that this was their best wrestling presentation of the year. We saw as well that they inducted Sting into the TNA Hall of Fame last night. We saw some footage of that. And, they did a good job of making this show feel special, making this show feel big. Hulk Hogan making an appearance after that tag team matchup with Aces and Eights, and Sting and Bully Ray making the save, and, as all the Aces and Eights members fed themselves to Hogan. Be that as it may, you had to have that Hogan T-shirt ripping moment, again, at the biggest show of the year, and then having Hogan in the ring for the deal was solid as well, and really added to the intrigue built by that moment. So, on a show where 4 championships changed hands, the X Division Championship going to RVD, the Tag Team Championship going to Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez, the Knockouts Championship going to Tara, and the World Heavyweight Championship going to Jeff Hardy. They did a lot tonight. Did TNA Impact Wrestling. They did it in front of a hot live crowd in Phoenix, Arizona. And the question that we're left with is, did you as fans view this show as a passing show or a failing show? We asked you on Twitter. We asked you to retweet with your thoughts and your comments whether or not TNA Bound for Glory was a pass or a fail. And before we get to those results, David Hero, I'm going to throw it to you to give us your final thought on tonight's Bound for Glory. Was it indeed a passing show or a failing show from TNA Impact Wrestling?
It was a humongous passing show. Everyone in that locker room that was out there tonight should be proud of the product that they put out in front of the fans. Anyone that complains, listen, I complain about everything all the time. I'm the cynic one. I'm the negative one when it comes to all this stuff. And you know what? It was good. And you know what, Dixie Carter, your company, pulled it all together. And you can say it's a difference in creative. You can say it's a difference in the front office. You can say it's a changeover in talent. But for at least tonight, the stars were aligned. Everybody worked together. Agendas were put aside, and they went out there and they did one hell of a show, told one hell of a story, and all those guys busted their butts. And, huge kudos to everybody in TNA Impact Wrestling tonight.
They did deliver tonight, and according to you out there in the Twitterverse, those of you who have interacted with us on Twitter tonight, at PWR Show on Twitter, it was an overwhelmingly passing score. 90% of you saying that this pay-per-view just who said it was a fail. You know, and as we look at those results, David Hero, as I think back to the pay-per-view, this is the first time in a very long time every match meant something. Now, you know what? Actually, Zima Ion RVD didn't mean as much as anything else on the card, but the tradition of TNA opening with the next division contest was a meaning enough for that match to be there. From a good opener to a solid main event, everything in between was pretty firm on this show. They did a great job. They presented their biggest pay-per-view of the year, did TNA Wrestling, and I'm not sure there are many years over the last 10 that you could say Bound for Glory was that show. This year, without a shadow of a doubt, you can say that.
And you know what? Let's not forget the fourth person in the ring, the crowd. The crowd definitely made that show enjoyable by seeing them cheer and boo and everything that they did tonight as real wrestling fans, not tourists that are at a soundstage in Orlando, but as people that spent their money and bought tickets and were invested and cheered their favorites and booed the ones they didn't like. They also, the fans in Phoenix tonight, elevated that pay-per-view from very good to tremendous.
And this is the challenge TNA has in front of them. We just got a tweet on Twitter here from a fan who I would assume didn't watch the show, and he says his name is @LReal911, and I quote, "TNA is just boring. Their pay-per-views come off as cheap." Well, tonight didn't come off as cheap at all. Now, if you're sitting at home, as you said at the top of this program, David Hero, if any of you are sitting at home comparing Bound for Glory to WrestleMania, hell, if you're sitting at home comparing Bound for Glory to the old In Your Houses, you're setting yourself up for failure. Judge it by the emotional investment that you have in the activity in the ring. Judge for the squared circle, and give yourself a fair shot to be a wrestling fan, because TNA is not on the same level of WWE. WWE spends millions of dollars on production and presentation and marketing of their pay-per-view events. Why? Because they're perfect at it. Nobody beats them with live event marketing, and they've been doing it for years. TNA is not yet to that point, but as Eric Bischoff tweeted out tonight, they're getting there. And it's going to be a long while before they are there, but at the same time, there was a little company that could back in the day called ECW that gave you perfection just about every time they were on television or on pay-per-view in the squared circle. And while the end came a lot sooner for them than maybe it should have, you can't set yourself up for a disaster by comparing TNA to WWE at this point from any standpoint. And I think if you actually compared them from a wrestling standpoint, company to company, your winner would be less clear, would be TNA Impact Wrestling. We're going to close out the show with a final tweet from one of our viewers. @HomieTheClown24 says, and I think this is a good summary statement, David Hero, seems like TNA always delivers at Bound for Glory. Tons of solid matches, and the live crowd made a difference. Indeed they did, and indeed Bound for Glory is in the record books with 4 new champions, a returning Matt Morgan, and Devon, the face of Aces and Eights. Much more discussion about this coming up this Saturday night on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television. But before that, we'll be back with you again here tomorrow night on Blog Talk Radio for Monday Night Meltdown, our Raw wrap-up show, live tomorrow right after Raw goes on off the air, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. For Matthew Thomas and for David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in to the post-show for TNA Bound for Glory.
Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now.